Aha, buju nindinawe maganiduk, nuna nancy kwe indigo. Buju niji bema diziki ke, mekanat nindu dem, tawanish gonna gain, ishgonna gain indu juba, me wenji wasa iwedi. Uh, my English name is Hope Flanagan. Years ago, I used to help this elder lady, Majiki Kwe Wesiban, and she told me that because I would fetch plants for her, she'd say, "Okay, you need to get your name." And so when she did that, she told me how to seek getting my name. And when I did that, she said, "Now you've received my auntie's name, so your job is going to be to go out and fetch plants for people and to give these plants a voice." So the way that she taught me was that every single plant has its gift of food, medicine, utility, and also breath, because they all, if they're green, they're giving us breath. So when you look at a plant out there, there's no such thing as a useless weed. They all are giving breath, and they're all giving either a gift of food or of medicine or of utility, meaning you can use them for something. So sometimes in one plant you might have 10 different things, 10 different gifts. When I say Niji B'Madazik, I truly believe that, our fellow living beings. So these plants are just as alive as us. If you're going to be gathering plants, you need to feast them. You need to offer your sema, do your offering, offer your tobacco before you go pick. And that's one of the reasons we're talking about this today, is we had lots and lots of old-timey, what they would call mitigo asema. Mitig is stick or wood. Mitigo asema, mitigo, and then so it's called stick tobacco. So it's a different way of thinking about tobacco. Some people might say herbal tobacco, meaning things you get from the woods that have no nicotine. Maybe they're saying Nicotiana rustica, the seeds that were traded from 9,000 years ago, we know of, maybe much longer than that. Some Ernie Whiteman, who I worked with at Drew Wild Health, said there's evidence it was 22,000 years ago that the seeds were traded all through North and South America and have come up this way and were passed on tribally from father to son to father to son to father to son. So I brought some examples of that here that we grow at Dream of Wild Health. So we've been growing this for many years. That's what it ends. This particular kind of Nicotiana rustica, that's what it looks like right there. So we grow it out, and the young men, the young boys that come to the farm, they learn about growing this out. And we have, I think this year we grew 4 different tribal kinds of Nicotiana rustica from 4 different tribes. So we grow it out and then we give it back to those tribes, or when people need it, they come and ask for it. So we want our people to come back to our old gifts, our old ways of doing things. So if we can bring this back to the people and show them, when you go to pick something, always offer your tobacco, because Mother Earth is alive, and all these ones are alive too, and they all have their gifts. So if you were to go to the store and you're going to buy cigarettes or chewing tobacco or any kind of tobacco that you buy in the store, it's the same genus, Nicotiana, but it's a different species. It's Nicotiana tobacco that came from the islands that the non-native folks said, "Oh, look, we can make a lot of money from this." Well, tobacco's powerful, really powerful. I mean, it can kill people, right? But it also can heal, and it can also help. So some of you know the songs like "Ni Ga Ni." That was talking about he or she is leading, and then you say Asema. So the tobacco leads us. So every day, if you go out and you put down your offering, you might ask for guidance. Or if you go out and you want to pick one of these plants, you might ask for that gift to come with you. So that's tobacco is used all the time. The most common one that you hear as far as herbal tobacco is this one right here. So you see, it's a red stick. So in Ojibwe you might say Misqua Beamish, or some people say Misqua Beamuk. In Lakota you might say Cha Shasha, bark, red. You can see it's a red bark, right? So some people will use it singularly, other people will use it in blends. So ask your family, ask your relatives how they like to collect it or when they like to collect it. It's different per tribe. Like Six Nations folks and Cree folks will usually gather it in the summertime when you peel it, but in the summertime this will be green, so it won't be red. Other people will say you gather it after the last thunder and before it thunders again. So this is one way that you might see people working with it. Some families will say you scrape upward. Some people will say you scrape downward. So follow what your family says. You can say that, oh man, that old whole Flanagan, she doesn't know anything. That's all right. So when I do this, you see the red comes off and you see the green. So that red part right there, you can use that. Some people will just leave them together. But I know for me, if I'm gonna separate it out. I'm gonna have the red right there, and then I'm gonna get the green. And underneath the green, you see white. So this green part right here, that's what you're using in your opwagan, in your pipe, or that's what you might be using, like if you're gifting an elder and you're saying, I wanna learn something, or you want to give them something really, really nice. That's a nice thing to do. So the red's right here. Now you can use this too. You can use this for making a dye. You can use this together for making a tea to lower your blood sugar a little bit. And you can use it for a little bit of a liver cleanse as well. So recently what I've been receiving as a teaching is that it's your work, it's your effort that is the true currency of the spirits. That's from Pebamba Benes and Ogimagwanebik. What they're saying is put your life, put your work into what you're doing. Don't just, oh man, I got some bucks, I'm gonna buy some tobacco at the store. It's not the same. It's like when you put your work, you put your heart, your life into what you're doing, that's when it's gonna make a difference. So for me, if I was doing this, I'd make sure I'd get all the red off. I'm just using the back of a knife. This is how I do it. I'm gonna need a lot of it because I use it every single day. When I get up in the morning, I stand next to a tree and I say my thank yous for this day. So I see where the sun is coming up every day. Same tree, I can see where the sun moves on the horizon every day. Goes all the way this way. So when it goes this way, that's when it's one of the solstices. When it's right smack in the middle, it's an equinox. When it goes this way, it's another solstice, and then it comes back and has another equinox. So you watch the movement of the sun. So you might do that because it'll remind you at those 4 points of the year, when you think of that circle and the 4 points of the year, that's a good time to feast these. Because in the language, when you speak about these medicines, these plants, they're living beings and they need to be fed. You can't just put them in a big old plastic bag and forget about them. You've got to go out, offer them water, offer them food. So that's a good idea, the 4 points of the year. That way you always remember, oh, it's time to go thank these plants for their gifts again. So this one really kind of lets you know. You're driving along in the wintertime like, wow, check out that bright red plant. That's it. Now I know where it is. It has cousins. So just like us, you know how you got a cousin? Well, these plants do too. They have, and they even call it families. So the last name in this, they call it the genus, kind of like if you're like Jesse Big Bear, you meet another Big Bear, that might be your cousin, that might be your relative. So that works a little bit the opposite with plants. The last name is cornus. So this is a cornus, Sericea, and this one's a cornus. So this is like a cousin. This one is really coming up with climate change. So this is something I look at every day. I'm out in the woods looking at what's going on with the plants. Stuff is changing with climate change. So this right here is a cousin to red willow. This one's called, well, if you went to somebody around here that grew plants, they'd say, that's not red willow, that's red osier dogwood. You can call it that. Then this would be called pagoda dogwood. So this one is an old style toothbrush. We used to use that, it'll whiten your teeth actually. So it also was used for tobacco. So again, same thing, scrape down. It has a little bit of a minty smell. All these tobaccos, all these dogwoods right here are mostly slight pain relievers. They're gonna help you relax a little bit, but they're also slight pain relievers. I can smell this one. Whew, this one's a strong one. It's a wonderful smell in the wintertime. If you guys get to do this, if you all get to do this in the wintertime, it just makes you feel, I can smell the mint now. It's like, ooh, that's a nice one. So, yeah, this I believe is slight pain. They're all slight pain. So see, now I did the same thing. I get it down to the green, and now I'm gonna go like that. So your family might have a family blend, and that's not uncommon that a family blend gets passed down from family member to family member. If you have that, retain that. If not, I can give you one so you can have one. One that I share a lot around here is the 4 different kinds of dogwoods. So the 2 I already showed you, red willow or red osier dogwood, that's right here. You let it dry, and then you can crumple it up. So it just is like, now it's ready to be used in the Okwagan. You can use it in ceremonies. You can put it in a fire. One thing that I really like to do is, like, if you're in a group of Native folks, ask them, how does your family use tobacco? I always learn something new. So young people know so much. You guys know so much. You don't even know how much you know until you start saying it. And it's like, oh yeah. So here's the red osier tobacco. And then here's the pagoda that we just did. See, now it's nice and dry. So you'd mix them. And then there's 2 others of their relatives. This is gray bark tobacco. This one, if these other 2 get over harvested, this is a good one. Because this one hides. It's hard to find. It looks like just a little old gray stick. Sometimes a big bunch of little old gray sticks growing together. If you're wanting to find it, like, oh man, is this gray bark tobacco? I want to make tobacco out of this. Is it the gray bark dogwood? This is what you look for. The old ends of where the berries were. If you see that, it's most likely a dogwood, or the gray bark dogwood. So I know sometimes I've been out in the woods and the red willow is over harvested, so I'll go get the gray bark dogwood. You scrape it, smell it, it's the same, it's real similar, and it also has slight pain relief. Now the last one is the hardest one to find around here. I know I found it over at Mille Lacs. I know I found it along the St. Croix River and St. Croix Band. This is called the spotted dogwood. The reason why this one is hard to find is it likes a mist. It likes a misty, cold, fast-moving water. So here it is right here. If you go up north, you're more likely to find it. And then this is a Mille Lacs blend passed on through Jesse Clark and Jim Clark to me. And it's those 4. You blend them together. Now you can use them in the Okwagan, or you can use it for gifting, or however your family uses tobacco. Now, if you decided, no, I'm going to go buy some herbal tobacco, that happens like, you know, you might go to like a a store or online or like a powwow, oftentimes people would bring it to me and go like, Hope, Hope, what's in there? So I have to look like, okay, let me see. Here's the most common thing you're gonna see. This is the most common one. Now I'm telling you this because you can make this yourself. You can make that one I just told you. You can make this one I'm gonna tell you about right now. It's the most common one. And then you can use it every day. And if you make it, oh my gosh, you're gonna make some old lady and old man happy because it's like, oh my gosh, they're learning the plants. Yes, yes, there are old medicines. Every single one, they're like, oh, please accept my gift. So that would be a wonderful thing if you guys are out there like, oh, I know what that one is. That one has a gift. Spend time, because you know what else? Is when you're out in the woods and you see all these beautiful gifts, you're gonna feel better. It lifts your heart up, lifts your spirit up, because you know you're surrounded by these plants that love you so dearly. And they do, they really do. There's an old lesson about all the wild animals, all the wild plants, and the trickster came and they said, we gotta help these humans. They're really kind of foolish, these newcomers, they're kind of silly and they don't know how to live on this earth. So every single plant said, I'll give this. Every single animal said, I'll give this. And we still were two little twin babies all messed up in our cradle board going, not enough. So now it's time to learn some more and give back. So if you go to a powwow and you buy a herbal blend mix, this is most likely what it's gonna be. Right here is the one you often hear called kinnikinnick. An English name for it is bearberry. And I try to write in the Latin name just so everybody make sure you got the right thing. So Uva ursi is one of the names for it. Now both Ojibwe and Lakota folks will ask for this one. Usually if it's an Ojibwe person, they want it for their tobacco. If it's a Lakota person, they want it for a liver cleanse, for someone who's like trying to get off of drugs and want to clean out their liver. So it's bearberry is the English name for it. A pakosigan is the Ojibwe name for it, a pakosigan. Now I've heard stories about in the cabin sometimes like grandpas or grandmas would put this strung out along the tops of the cabin so it would dry out in the wintertime, and then it would be nice and crunchy to put in your tobacco mix. So a pakosigan or bearberry is the English name. And you might have seen I left some berries in there just to show they're not too tasty. They're mostly dry, but they do have some sweetness to it. And of course, bears will eat them. We can eat them, but that's a common one. This is what sometimes gets called kinnikinnick. It's sometimes called that, but that word really is ginegene, which is in Ojibwe means it is mixed. So let's find out what it's mixed with. Here's a herbal blend. So it's that with some red willow, or red osier dogwood, whatever you want to call it, misquabeamish. And then often you'll see the red stage of the sumac leaf and the fluffy, really light, common mullein leaf. It's been dried, now it's crunched up. This mullein leaf is an expectorant. So that means if you smoke it, you cough up the junk in your lungs. That's what it's for. So if you mix these four, you'll have a blend, you'll see it up at a powwow stand, you're like, oh, I want to start using non-commercial tobacco, that's what I'll do. Or if you're thinking, I want to start using non-commercial tobacco, get some seeds and start having your young men learn how to grow this. Because I'm seeing in Indian country, more and more of the tribal folks are going back to their old tribal seeds. But you can do so much with the plants out in the woods. So before I get any further, just to make sure that you've got the right plant with this red osier dogwood or pagoda dogwood or spotted dogwood or graybark dogwood, you take a leaf like this and you're gonna pull it apart. And if you see spider web like veins, see it looks like a spider web? That's a dogwood. So now you know you got the right plant. That's what you're looking for. Here's another one. The story is when the humans were lowered from the sky world, see that? That it was the spider that stood next to Buggadogishik, the hole in the sky, and used this, the spider web like veins that lowered the people down. So it's the old stories that come into play too with that. So those are those 4 dogwoods. Then here's a common powwow blend. Now I want to give you some ideas for other blends and some other stories about herbal tobacco. So if you were in this area when people were moving around a whole lot, they weren't around so much growing tobacco. We didn't have good land in this area. A lot of the farming land was taken. So a lot of times we would use another plant that's close to Nicotiana. And you know, nicotine has a slightly different relative called lobeline. So right in this area, Minnesota, we have 3 different kinds of lobelia. So when that's smoked, you get the same chemical reaction as nicotine. I'm not going to tell you it's light either. I mean, our old medicines are strong, so be careful too about what you do. Do a little bit at a time. If you go out picking, count 13 and pick 1, because we don't want to over-harvest everything, because we could wipe it out, right? So this one right here is called cardinal flower. It's a beautiful red flower. Likes to go around, grow around cold rivers in the mid to late summer. It's a beautiful bright red flower. And then you dry it. And then this sometimes works as a way to quit smoking, because it smokes up and you get the same reaction as nicotine, but your stomach turns a little bit. So like, oh, okay, that didn't feel so good. So around here we have the cardinal flower, the great blue lobelia, and then we have one more that's coming further north. It's coming from the driftless area in Iowa and Wisconsin. All these plants are on the move because of climate change. And that one, the common name for that one is just straight up Indian tobacco. I have some of that too here. The seeds look a lot like the seeds of the Nicotiana rustica that we grow at the Dream of Wild Health farm. So they're just tiny and they're in a little ball, and you can break those open. There'll be hundreds of seeds in each one of those little balls, and then you can plant those and raise them. So let's look at some of the other ones that are medicinal. This one, Jesse's here right now. I'm going to tell on his mom. This one right here, I really like this one. Go Simanan, the Ojibikan, the roots of Go Simanan. If I put this in my tobacco, it's going to make you sleepy. So one time Jesse's mom and I were driving along, and I said, I want you to smell this root. I just love the smell of it. So I burnt some of it, and once you know, she didn't like the smell of it. I was just all happy. She goes, oh, it smells awful. So pretty soon we both have to fall over and sleep, pull over in the car and sleep, because it's a strong one. It'll make you sleepy. There's another one here that's for relaxing. That's the blueberry flowers. So right here, it's kind of hard to pick them, because if you pick the flowers, then the blueberries don't come, right? So here's some of the flowers. If you want to make a tea, often these plants too might have another tea element. You can use the leaves as a tea for some blood sugar issues, but it's got a lot of power in it. That plant is a powerful plant. If you get the berries, of course, that's a beautiful building up antioxidants and fortifying your system. Just recently, I heard from an elder up north about if you smoke those berries, if you smoke them like you smoke fish, that it's going to intensify its ability to help you. So the flowers right here, you could put the flowers into your tobacco mix for a little bit of calming and soothing. So there's one right there. Then here's one right here. This is called partridge berry. This is a women's plant. So this will try to help regulate your hormones a little bit for women. It likes to grow under deep coniferous trees. Here's the berry of it right there. The berry's edible. It's a sweet little berry. But that's, if you put that in your tobacco mix, it would be mostly for women, for regulating hormones. Here's one right here. This was the first year I was able to gather this one. Things are changing with climate change. This is a bog birch, and bog birch has little tiny leaves. You can probably see them like that's a bog birch leaf. And here's the catkins, little tiny ones, but they help with breathing. So if you put that in your tobacco, say you make one that helps you expectorate, like get rid of some of the phlegm, and then this one would open up a little bit, like open up those sacs in your lungs a little bit. So that's that birch bog catkins. So it's the seeds, and you've got to be mindful. The name of it in Ojibwe is Bene Mijins, which means, you know, they give it to the partridges. And it's true, because the partridges they love to eat this. You know, if you ever get a partridge, a rough grouse, you know, or spruce grouse, cut them open, look at their gizzards, you're going to find these in there. If, you know, they love this. So for us, though, you can use it in your tobacco. So here's another one. 2 summers ago, I brought a dear one young lady up to Canada. And the ladies there in Canada, they told her, oh, you got to go pick this one. This is called creeping snowberry. They said, that's in your family blend. When you pick this one, it tastes just like wintergreen, and you can make a tea out of it, and it's for urinary tract issues. When it's dried, if you put this in your herbal tobacco, it's going to give you a little bit of wintergreen flavor. So it's called creeping snowberry. This one likes to grow underneath black spruce, right along with wild cranberries. So it does have a snowberry, a bright white berry, but you're lucky if you get a few of those. They're delicious. They're like a cross between a peach and a wintergreen. So for her family blend, here's what it looks like. She goes and gathers this, and then she'll have it, and she'll also have it blended with the red osier tobacco, and she had a spotted tobacco too. So I know for her family blend, it's a little different, the different kinds of plants that are in there. Okay, here's another one for loosening stomach muscles. This one you can gather through the winter. Here's the flowers of it. That's not really what you're using the leaves. This is called Pipsissewa in English. Gagige baguns. Gagige means forever. Bug is leaf. Uns is little. So little forever leaf, because it stays green all winter long. So there are things you can gather through the winter time, and this is one of them. And what you would do if you put this in your tobacco blend, crush it up, and then make it part of your tobacco blend, so it'll be there that you can use it in the pipe or however you're using your medicines. This one has, recently some songs came back from an elder that ran a medicine lodge up at Panema. And she said, she's passed away, but she was talking about, we need to help our young ones that are going through distress right now, because there's a lot of things happening that people, their hearts are heavy. And this plant right here is used to draw you back into your body. So a lot of us, when our hearts are heavy, we don't want to be here now. We want to go traveling. We want to be outside of this body. So this particular one, in English we call New England aster. You get the root, but you can also use the leaves. Got to get them really dry so they can crunch. So you see that? You would use this as a smudge, but you can also use those fine little hairs and the little leaves in your tobacco. So this is one, like, if somebody was to pass out, you can burn this to like revive them, but it's also for if you're wandering. And this elder that we recently received these songs back, that when people feel like they no longer want to be on this earth, this plant is useful for that, because it calls people back saying, we're here for a reason. Every one of us is here for a reason. We don't get to go home before our time, because if we're not done with our work, oh my gosh, we're going to get it again. No, I want to do my work and be ready to help others, because that's the really important thing, is do your work, and then you get to go home and be ready to do whatever you're going to do next. So this is an important one, and I feel like it's getting more and more important. It's important to realize, yes, there's things to do here, and it might not always be easy. So open up your heart to think about, like, okay, I'm going to go forward. I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to figure out, why am I here and what am I supposed to do? And maybe it's going to be picking plants. Maybe it's going to be helping others, talking to others, and figure out how to walk in a way on this earth that'll lift up your heart. So we do have plants for that, and that is one of them. So I do want to point this one out. This is called rabbit tobacco. Sweet Everlasting is the English name for it. This one was used, if you're ever walking in a field and you go like, I smell maple syrup. This is probably what you're smelling. This was used a long time ago in the South as what they called it, rabbit tobacco, because it would give some sensation of a wild herbal tobacco. So now for me, I can't use this one because I'm reactive to it. Don't assume that just because somebody uses it for a certain purpose that you too can use it for a certain purpose. So what you got to do is, like, don't use a whole bunch of anything right away. You know, you might want to try a little bit of it. Oh, is this working? Try a little bit of it. Okay, I'm feeling a little better. It's helping me. Just be conscientious about it and be careful. If it's like, whoa, that one's not for me, pay attention to that. Because that might be the absolute truth, that this plant works for this person, this plant doesn't, or this plant works for someone else. I want to talk to that just a little bit now, in that when you're working with plants, remember it's a living being. And I go like this because I think about this all the time. These living beings have spirits too, just like us. So some elders, some people I know work mostly with the spirit of the plant. Some people work mostly with the biology of the plant, the biochemistry of the plant. A lot of people will work somewhere in between. So not so many people are working with the spirit anymore. Maybe that's going to be you. Maybe you're the next one who's going to know how to wake up the spirit and be able to work with that particular spirit of that plant. And maybe you're going to find out, like, how can I work with this plant, its spirit, and its biology? So we've got to think like that. These all have spirits, and they can help you. I do want to talk about, there's other plants, there's other things too. You might say, oh, this is all plants. Well, here's one that I get a lot of call for. You might recognize this. This is the inside of a wasp nest. If you see the whole big ball of a wasp nest, here's the outside of it. I'm going to roll it around in a little ball. Now this is what you would use for like migraine. Light it. And I think some people sometimes put this in their herbal tobacco. So again, like if people come and they're asking for a certain plant, say they're asking for wasp nest, which does happen. If they're Ojibwe, this is what they're wishing for either protection medicine or for migraine headaches. But now, more frequently, if I hear a Dakota person say, oh, I'm wishing for a wasp nest, they want this part. So if you look at my little plate here, you'll see these little black things, little black pieces that have come out of this part. And what that is, we're just finding this out now. Science is just figuring it out now. I mean, our native folks knew a lot of stuff that science is just now catching up on. When the wasp puts their little baby in there, that's where their little babies grow, the larvae grow inside of there. They'll put a little chunk of this little black stuff in there. It's called propolis. It's a wasp form of propolis, which is full of medicine for protecting the baby wasp. Well, it protects us too. So there's a lot of good stuff in there, you know, that propolis. I found it out this summer. I had a little piece of this. Like, I wonder what they use this for. So I put a little water on there, and it was iridescent, all sorts of different colors. I'm like, holy man, who would have ever guessed that little black thing turns out to be full of different kinds of things. So don't be afraid to go out in the woods, you guys. It's probably the safest place to be. If you go out there, spend some time. Put your back up against a tree, put some tobacco down and ask. You know, it's okay to ask. Ask for guidance. Maybe you have a specific thing that you're wishing to learn. You could ask for help. You know, some people say good health and help are things to ask for. Don't be afraid to ask for guidance. So that's the number one thing. So if you can hear, show me what I need to do next. And you'll probably only get a little bit of guidance. Like, here's the next step. Here's the next step. That's it. And that's all you can do. Is just put one foot in front of the other and make sure that you're trying to move forward with the best of intentions. So I hope you're learning something today. I'm glad that you're tuned in here. I'm excited that young people, you know, you guys are the future for all of us. So some people might say, well, I don't hope she'll be talking about plants like that. For me, I'm getting up there, and I want to make sure that you all take this in your heart, accept this as it's in your heart, it's in your blood, it's in your body. You guys can carry this. You young people, you're the ones that are going to be the ones that take this and keep learning and being the ones that will carry these medicines. I feel so honored when I get young people saying, hey, would you take me out in the woods and show me how to pick X, Y, or Z? So remember, if you do that, offer your tobacco. Pagadana gid Asema. I want to say this too, like recently I was talking to our seed keeper at Dream Wild Health, Jessica Greendeer, and she really knows about domesticated plants. I don't know about domesticated plants. And the way of thinking that old lady told me is we have the Awasiag, the wild ones, and the Awakanag, the enslaved ones, like corn, beans, cows, pigs. And then here we have, raspberry bushes, any of these plants, red osier dogwood, all of that. Plus we've got moose and bear and deer and things like that. Now, when you go to pick or when you go to gather, you're going to let them know who you are. So try to get your Indian name. If you find an elder who's a namer, try to find out who you are. And then you're going to say, Newe Pagadana Asema, I want to release this tobacco. Adapana Mawashin Wa'ao. Accept this from me. Because they don't have to give their gift. In fact, that elder that I'm talking about, she said, if we don't thank them, they're going to leave us. And then what are we going to do? So there are teachers, there are elders, they're here way before we ever got here. So remember to thank them, be with them. They're really healing. Even if you're in the city and you can't do much of anything, if you can find a tree, put your back up against that tree and just talk to that tree. Because you know that tree's got that's got that water and minerals going up and down. It's got a lot of life in it. Aha. Miigwech Bizidawie, thank you for listening. I hope you learned something. Feel like if you want to, bring some tobacco to an elder and just ask, teach me. And then you might find they're happy to do that. Aha, Chimiigwech.